Welcome to It's Good to Talk, the podcast that equips parents with conversations they need to have. My name is Emma McLean. I'm an executive coach. I work exclusively with working parents. Working and having a family is darn hard. And a way to get through this time in your life is to have better conversations. It's to talk about it. I believe that hope is not a strategy. Asking for what you need is. And that's why it's good to talk. Let's get into it. Hello, it's your friend Emma. Welcome back to It's Good to Talk. Today I am delighted to have Renata Wiles here. Renata runs a very successful Instagram page, Roam with Kids. And I'm going to get Renata to introduce herself. Renata, kia ora, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, nice to be on the podcast. I'm Renata, as you said, and I do run an Instagram. That's part of it. The Instagram is to promote the app. So Roam with Kids is an app, and that's our main focus. It's a subscription model, and all of our social media is to kind of like build our community around that, and mainly our main form of advertising, really, main form of marketing. So yeah, I've got two small kids. I've got a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. And they are very busy and energetic, and I needed places to go with them, and that was how Roam with Kids kind of started, from me going out with my kids looking for cafes that had play areas, needing to go on a pram-friendly walk or a walk that was short enough that my toddler could do, trying to find playgrounds that were like appropriate for the age and stage that they were at. And yeah, so it kind of all started from there, from hanging out with my kids, and now I'm trying to juggle, working and running a business and parenting two little kids, which is hectic and busy.
Oh, amazing. So the app, what is the name of the app so that people can download it immediately?
The app is called Roam with Kids, so ROAM, Roam with Kids. It's the same as the Facebook and the Instagram, and
Cool.
it is a subscription model, but we do have a free trial, so you can try it for free and see what you like. And there's offers in there, so we've got all of the locations of where to go, and then we also have events, so everything that's happening, if you're in Auckland or Wellington or Christchurch or wherever, all of the events that are happening for families and for kids, you can find out what's on every week or every weekend. And then we have offers in there, so free coffee at indoor playgrounds, discounted entry, discounts at cafes, things like that.
Oh, that sounds amazing. It sounds like the kind of companion I would want to have if I had small children again, and every day you're waking up going, what are we going to do today?
Yeah,
How do we
totally.
get through until bedtime, basically?
Totally. Yeah. Parenting can be a little bit monotonous, the same thing every day, always going to the same playground, doing the same thing. And so this just kind of empowers parents to be like, we're going to do something different today. And they have all the information that they need to know whether it's suitable for them or not. And also if you're in an area that you don't know, maybe you've got to pick up something from Facebook Marketplace or whatever, and you're in a part of the city that you're not familiar with, and the kids are in the car and you're thinking, okay, we all need some food. Everybody's hangry. Where can we go? It uses your location. So kind of like Google Maps, and you can just open it up and see, cool, there's a cafe just around the corner that we can go to that's definitely going to be suitable for my kids.
Awesome. And who do you find, what parent is the main user of your app, do you think?
Definitely mums.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, well, there are dads that are primary parents these days, but more often than not, it's the mum that, whether or not this is like a good thing or a bad thing, but it's the mum that's making the plans, sorting out the weekend plans, that's often at home with the kids, if they're little and not at daycare or things. And so mums are definitely our main users. But we do have grandparents as well. Grandparents use it if they've got their kids maybe one day a week and they're kind of not up to play with like all the cool places to go or what their kids might be suitable for them. So we get grandparents using it as well and loving it. And then also kind of like nannies or in-home carers use it as well. So being able to find things that are suitable for all the different kids that they're looking after.
Oh, it sounds amazing. I encourage everyone to check it out. So you're running a startup.
Yeah.
You have a family. You
Yeah.
have a partner.
Yeah.
That's a lot. When we talk about conversations, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that when we become parents, there are so many kind of things we face into that completely hit us out of the blue, like just things we didn't even think about.
Yeah.
The birth is sometimes the easy part.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that with lightness. When you reflect on your experience as a working parent to date, what do you think are some of the conversations that have been important for you to have as a parent?
I think I, like probably many people, became a parent during like a very difficult time. It was COVID, and I had my first child in 2020. It was lockdown. And before that, me and my partner met in the UK. We were living in London. We both had, careers that we loved. I really wanted to come back and to move back to New Zealand and get a career that, pick up what I had been doing in the UK, but here. But we came back, found out that I was pregnant, everything. I worked in travel before, everything shut down. The whole travel industry was, not only were they not hiring, they were like letting people go left, right, and center. So we kind of just made the decision that we were going to set up our, whole life on his income. So we came back, he got a job, and then we just decided, all right, this is how much you're earning. So we can get this tiny little apartment to rent for that amount. And we're going to just really, be careful and budget and try and just live off one income. And so because we made that decision from, the beginning, it wasn't like it's not like we'd gone from 2 incomes here and a house and a life down to 1 and then trying to juggle that. It was like we came back and we just set ourselves up on 1, which was hard, but easier to then justify staying off because we kind of had already decided that was how we were going to approach it for, the year while it was COVID, while it was lockdown, while I was like, had this new baby and the world was kind of crazy. And there was quite a few conversations that came out of that time that we couldn't necessarily put into play then, but have definitely been ongoing conversations since. And I think one of them was, we moved back and I've got friends that have kids and everybody does things differently, but I think a lot of people don't have a conversation around like, what does your KiwiSaver look like? For example, when one parent is continuing to work and one parent is staying off to, raise the kids, which is also an incredibly important job and very, very hard. And so we kind of had that discussion around, okay, how are we going to address this? Like if I'm going to be not working now and I'm going to be home and you're going to be going to work and getting, your KiwiSaver paid into by your employer, how are we going to rectify that? Because it's not just the amounts that they're putting in, it's like the compounding interest on that as well. And I'm missing out on that. So I'm kind of like on the back foot. And I think that kind of conversation, even from the very beginning, like not many people that I know have that conversation. And I think that's a really important thing to address. And if you look at kind of like, the gender pay gap and things like that, it's just, these are all the things that lead to that, like are these kind of micro decisions or whatever. And so that was like the first conversation that was quite important to have when I was off. And then when my daughter was 2.5, she started going to kindy and I returned to work. I had been doing some part-time work before that, kind of in the evenings and things, just juggling it around her. I was able to get a job that at the same company where my partner was working before she was at daycare, and he was working like 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. and then I was working 3 p.m. until 7 p.m. And so we were really like juggling that childcare working split. And then when she was 2.5, I got a job that I started on 10 hours and increased to 20 hours. And so I've got so much to talk about all of this, but I think that one of the main things, even before I went back to work and I was just at home, one of the main things was that we really were like an equal partnership. And so there has never been, even when I was not in paid employment, even when I was just being, a full-time mum, there was never an expectation that I would be like doing the cooking, doing the shopping, doing the cleaning. I'm actually terrible at all of those things. Like Josh, my partner, is way better at them and way more organized. But the expectation was never on me to like do everything. It was like, well, you're working and you've got this paid job and I'm working, I'm looking after this child. And then there's all these collective jobs that need to be done. And so like how, who's going to do them kind of thing? Because it's not going to be like, I'm not going to be the stay-at-home mum that's doing everything. And then when I did go back to work, I was really, really lucky that I went back to a company where it was like director of the company was a woman, and then the like manager that I was reporting into was a woman. And so when they hired me, they knew that I had, this little 2.5-year-old. She was starting kindy, and I was going to need this kind of like flexible transition back to work. And I just think that's also, from talking to people, really, really rare to come across. And I think it's because I had, all of the layers above me were all women. So they kind of understood more. But they basically started me on 10 hours a week, and they said, you can work these 10 hours anytime you want. So you can work them in nap times, you can work them in the weekend, you can work at nights, like it's up to you. And we'll gradually increase that to 20 hours as she gets settled into kindy and things like that. And it will just be fully from home. And then once she was at kindy, she was settled, I was working 20 hours a week. Then it was like, okay, I'll start coming into the office 1 day a week now and then 2 days from home. And so the whole transition back into the workforce was just so unbelievably flexible. And I don't feel like many people have that experience. And I just think it's like, that should be the norm, rather than the expectation, or rather than the exception. because it really made returning to work so much easier, like for our whole household, and also like for my daughter who was going to kindy, and that was a big adjustment. And the flexibility to kind of choose the hours that I was working meant I was doing 20 hours a week. So one day, she woke up sick. I didn't have to call in and say, I can't work today because my daughter's sick. It was more just like, FYI, I'm going to do these hours in the evening, or I'm going to do these hours tomorrow or something, which just made such a massive difference to like the whole introduction to being like a working parent again. Yeah.
Totally. Wow. You have got a lot to say on this, Renata.
Yeah,
And I love
sorry.
it.
Just like word vomiting at you. I'm like, oh yeah, and this, and this.
No, I mean, first of all, and all my listeners know that I do not take sorries from people. So you can remove that sorry and that apology. I want to pick up on a few things I heard you say there. So the first thing I heard you say was, when I was off and I wasn't contributing to my KiwiSaver, that's a conversation that I had with my partner, or that we had together.
Yeah.
And I really want to emphasize the point you made, which is the importance of that conversation is the compounding of the interest in in that contribution. I'm curious, like, where did you get to on that? Like, did you guys as a family contribute to that? Did you just clock it and say, let's deliberately notice this? Or where did you end up with that?
We've gone through phases of doing different things. So it's been an ongoing conversation. Initially, when we first, he first got a job, we were trying to live on one income. We were trying to keep costs as low as possible. So it was like this conversation. It was more like an acknowledgement that once we've got enough money to justify it, we're going to start. That's our priority. It's on our priority list to start paying for. So before we, get paid for a holiday, or before we do, buy a new car, or before we do anything else, this is when we have the extra money. This is where it's going to go. That was the first part. And then when we first started earning a bit more, we couldn't afford, obviously he paid into his and his employer paid in, and we couldn't afford to match it yet. So we started just paying in the same as what he was paying in. So we didn't have that employee. The intention was always like, we're going to just keep this conversation going and do what we can. And then we're going to like reassess. And I think because we had that conversation, we were able to say, okay, you're starting work like at this point, and so this is where you're getting paid in. What's the balance of your KiwiSaver now? Because now we can track what the difference is. Whereas if people don't have that conversation, their partner could say, oh, well, that amount of my KiwiSaver is from like a job I had 10 years ago, or it's from this, or it's from whatever. And it's like being able to actually know, okay, how much have you made in your KiwiSaver from this date is really important. And then we got to the point where I was working, and so I was paying into my KiwiSaver, my employee was paying into my KiwiSaver, and there was like a shortfall. And so we thought, okay, we're going to save up that shortfall, and then we're going to do like a deposit into my KiwiSaver. So we're kind of just like over time trying to catch me up to where I would have been if I had been working this whole time. And it is different because my partner definitely now earns more than I do. And so his contribution would have naturally been more than mine anyway. But when he was working and I wasn't working, we were paying the same into his as we were paying into mine, minus the employee contribution. Like, it's kind of whatever works at different phases. And as long as you both have that goal of like, right, the goal is that we're going to achieve you getting the amount that you would have had in your KiwiSaver. And also, like, my partner and I have always, since we moved back to New Zealand, since we had kids, it was different when we were, in London and we didn't have kids and we weren't a family. But since we've come back and had kids, all of our money is combined. It's not like this is your money and this is my money. And so there's been this kind of conversation around, well, one day those KiwiSavers will be combined anyway. So what does it matter? And it's like, yes, but it's like a prenup, right? It's like you never know what's going to happen, and you can't rely on that. You can't just rely on the goodwill of like, oh yeah, like if we separate, you'll give me half, or if, we'll be still together when we retire, or like if something happens, and obviously everybody hopes, like, you get married, everybody hopes that, I mean, I'm not married, but like people get married and the intention you're going to be together forever. And that's our intention as well. But it's still like you need to make sensible choices around that and be prepared, especially when you're the one who's in the more vulnerable position. Like for a guy to say to, a partner, oh, it's fine, one day we'll just combine it. It's like, yeah, that's cool because all the money's in your bank account. But like, what about me? Like, I can't just take your word for that. So that's been kind of like an ongoing conversation around, okay, like how can we, with the little income that we have, like how can we like divvy this up to be slightly more fair around that specific aspect? And so we've done different things at different times. And now we're in another situation I didn't even really touch on, but like obviously I'm self-employed now, which is like a whole new ball game. And so then that introduces new challenges of like, okay, so like am I paying into it, and also am I the employee paying into it, or like how does that work now? We basically came to an agreement where I said I want to put 10% of this income that I earn in until I catch up to this point or whatever, because so whatever will work for different people, and it obviously depends on how much you're earning. But I think just having that ongoing conversation, being really clear that this is something that both of you need to care about, it needs to be prioritized, and that it can change. It's not like, okay, this is what we're going to do and we have to do this forever. It's like, right now our financial situation is this and we can afford to do this. Then it changes and it's okay, now we're going to reassess what this looks like. And as time goes on, that conversation is like evolving, but it's always being had. That's the main thing.
I love that. It's always being had. It's not fixed. It's evolving. It's open. When I hear you talk that back, it's such great advice. Are these the conversations that your friends are having? Like, is this a common conversation? Like, honey, what are we going to do with my KiwiSaver?
I would like to hope that it's becoming more common. I know that I do have, a lot of friends that didn't have these conversations when they first had kids, and now they're in situations where it's like their partner just has so much more in their KiwiSaver. And even if they wanted to address it, like financially, it's so much harder to catch up now because the gap has got so big. Whereas we went into it and tried to address it from the very beginning to keep that gap as small as possible, so that the gap is there's always that like the goal to, okay, we're going to catch up to that. We're going to try and make it even again. And I think that, like, I don't know, but I just think not everyone like deals with money the same way. And I know that there are a lot of people who have really separate finances, and that's a really difficult situation to be in as well. And I think that, being on maternity leave, like not working, and I say that in inverted commas because like being a stay-at-home parent is the most work that I've probably ever done. If you were like, oh, we've got separate finances, okay, so I'm not earning an income now, I'm on maternity leave, I've got no money, like what, am I just living off my savings to go out for coffee with my friends? That's really important for my mental health to get out. Who's paying for that? And when, the way that we approached it is that we combined all of our money, it just goes into the same account, our bills all come out of that, we both have access to it. And when I was on maternity leave, it was like, if I needed new clothes, if I needed to go for lunch, needed to go for lunch with my friends, like whatever it was, they just paid for that because it was like our money, Josh was working in the formal economy of earning cash money, and I was working in the unpaid economy of raising kids, which is super important for society as well. And so, it was just never this like divide. And I think that having that approach made the KiwiSaver conversation so much easier, because it wasn't like, I can imagine if you had separate finances and you suddenly said to your partner, like, hey, some of your income needs to go into my KiwiSaver, that would be a much harder starting point. Whereas when it's like, hey, this pool of money that belongs to both of us, some of that needs to go into my KiwiSaver. That's like a much easier starting point for that conversation.
I love that. Such a good description because, I think what I see in my work is definitely tensions arise when one person comes out of the paid workforce and goes into the unpaid workforce, but still continues to spend money. And then the other person's like, I always remember I was out at a dinner with my then husband's firm. He works in a big firm when they were all partners. And I remember one of the partners talking about his wife, who was a stay-at-home mum with 3 children. And he was like, I look at my bank account and I know that we spend a lot of money, but the thing that really I wonder is, do you have to go out for coffee every day?
Yeah.
And I was like, I just wanted to punch him because I'm like, have you been at home with 3 children?
Yeah.
Yes, you do have to go out for a coffee every day.
I know. Me and my friends sometimes joke that like having a daily coffee budget, it's cheaper than therapy, And so which one would you rather pay for?
Some of my highlights were I used to go to this like rhythm and rhyme thing at the library, and then with my sister-in-law and all her friends and all their babies, we'd go to muffin break at St. Luke's. And it was like it was the highlight of my week.
I was the same. Like when I had I had a coffee group. It was during lockdown and things, so it was like crazy time, and we met up once a week, almost every week for like a year, this coffee group. And it was like something to get us out of the house. It was like we got up, we had to shower, we got dressed. She would cry the whole time in the car, so I like hated going out with her. It was like quite traumatic. but we would like get there, we'd be surrounded by these like other moms, other babies, we'd have a drink. It was like an activity, you know, and it actually is so important for your mental health. And even when I wasn't going and meeting a coffee group, like we've always jokingly had a coffee budget in our shared budget, because it is so important. Like if you've been up all night with a child and you're sleep deprived and you get up in the morning, and like for me, it was just like, I'm going to put her in the pram and I'm going to go for a walk, and I need a destination. I'm going to walk to get a coffee. And it was like so important for me, for my mental health. And yeah, it was like a non-negotiable. Like even when times were tough and it was like, let's cut Netflix before we cut the coffee budget. What else can we get rid of? Because I can't give this up. But that's again, because like we had this all shared money, and there was never a feeling of I'm spending his money. His money is the one, you know, his job is paying into our bank account, but I never felt like I'm spending your money. It was just like, this is our money. I'm working really hard raising our kids, and you're working really hard like for this other company. And this money that comes in, it's for both of us. We're both working really hard. Like, you know, and Josh has always been on board with that. He's always been super supportive of that. Like it was his idea to combine all of our money and just like go all in together. And, you know, it's like, maybe that's also rare for a partner to be like that, but it's like his kids are benefiting from it. Do you know what I mean? So like our whole family benefits from this approach. We're all stronger together. We're all happier together. We're all kind of like in it together.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So there you go, listeners. You need a coffee budget. This is a conversation you need to have. Put it on your weekly check-in agenda items.
Yeah.
And the frame up for it is mental health, okay? And it's therapy and it's all that stuff. So I think that is a very, very important lesson.
Yeah.
I love it. And I totally agree with everything you said. Another thing I wanted to pick up with you on what you said around expectations of how the work gets completed in your family. And I heard you say a few times, well, it's just the expectation we have that even if I'm the one at home looking after kids, it doesn't mean that my partner is not doing anything at home. You know, it's like we're equals here. And what I wanted to understand was, how does that expectation arise? I mean, did you have these conversations before you had kids? Is it just, how does that, because where do these expectations come from? Because I just want to frame it up with, that's not unusual, but it's not usual. So I wanted to, ask you that.
This is kind of like a side tangent, but you know, I think the most important decision that you make in your entire life, and this is what I will be like drilling into my kids, is the partner that you choose. It is the single most important decision that you can possibly make, because you spend more time with them than anybody else. You know, you're with them before you have kids, you're with them after you have kids, hopefully. You're together all the time, and they will either help you thrive or they will crush you. And so it's just so important. And so how that relates to like your question is that Josh is amazing. And I feel like when you're dating somebody, the whole purpose of dating them should be to find out like what kind of person they're like, right? And so even when we were dating, even when we didn't have kids, I never did everything. I probably actually did less than him. I definitely do less than him now. But like, I think one of our first dates, I went to his house and he cooked me dinner. You know, he's like very, very capable. He's like, he's capable in all aspects of like running a house. And I think choosing the partner that you end up with, and people listening to this, maybe it's too late. Maybe you're already with somebody and just like you need to address that situation. But or even, you know, if you have friends or if you have kids and you can like pass on anything, it's just like the partner that you chose is so important. And so with Josh, you know, before having kids, we were very equal. Like he would always be cleaning the house. He would always be cooking dinners. Like he would pick up groceries on his way home. It was like very, very equal. And then when we had kids, it was before we even had kids, we moved back and it was lockdown. I was pregnant and he still did mostly everything. And like little things, like I hate going to the supermarket. I get like real angry. I'm like, I hate this. Like, let's get in and out as fast as possible. He loves it. He could like browse for ages, you know? And then when we had our first daughter, she was just the most amazing child in the whole world, but did not sleep. And so I was like chronically sleep deprived. It was just painful. And so without really being like a conscious decision, it was like, okay, well, you're already doing most of this task. You're just now going to do all of that task because I'm so tired and I'm going to have a mental breakdown if you ask me to cook dinner. And so like everything to do with, because I was breastfeeding her and I was doing all of the nights with her, and it was like, that's the task that I'm doing. So the task that you're doing is everything to do with food in our house. So all of the shopping, all of the meal prep, everything like that. Like even now, Josh works from home some days. He still makes me lunch on those days when we're both working from home, and he'll still make me lunch, if he's making something for himself. He makes dinner every night. At the weekends, he'll do breakfast to everyone. Like that's just a whole thing. And then everything to do with food, he's like kind of responsible for. And it wasn't like a conscious decision where it was like, this is what you're going to do. It was just like, this is how things are going to be now. This is how things are going to like operate. But yeah, so I think when it came to say the food, for example, it was like everything to do with that. So if we're running low on something, if we're running low on like peanut butter or if anything like that, he will just like look after. And then I think as part of that as well, like he's just naturally, I shouldn't say this because people sometimes say this about women and I hate it, but like he just prefers things to be way tidier than me. Like he gets stressed out if the house is like messy or, sometimes he works from home sometimes. He'll put on the washing when he's working from home. He'll clean things up. Like he'll just see the jobs that need to be done and he'll do them, Like I shared this example on Instagram a while ago, but our toddler was starting solids and constantly dropping food on the floor. And so the next day I got home and he had ordered from the sleep store a mat to go under the high chair so things wouldn't fall on the floor anymore. Like he just saw that there was something that needed to be done and then he just did it. And so he's just really capable. And I don't want to be controversial, but like that's how everybody should be. Like there shouldn't be men who are like, oh, I didn't know that, we could get a mat to go under the high chair, or like, oh, I didn't know that the kids needed new shoes. Because he also like gets the kids ready and puts their clothes away and like is involved in everything. And so he'll know like, oh, the kids need new clothes, they need new shoes, or, our daughter needs a new backpack, like whatever it is, because he's involved in like the household and the household tasks. Like more involved than I am, like he just does so much more than me. Like he does all the food stuff, all the cooking, and he does so much cleaning. And I'm just like, very grateful to have such an equal partner. But also at the same time, just it's so sad to me that that's not more normal and that women have such a low bar for men, like the bar for a dad to be considered like hands-on or like a good partner is just so low. And I just wish that people were like, okay, let's like raise the bar here and just expect more from partnerships, because that's what you should be. Like you should be a partnership where, you're on the same team, you're working towards the same goals and you're both helping each other. Like, you should be like, they're both the same level of stress about what needs to be done. But I heard this really good quote that I love. And it was like, if you have 20% to give one day and you give 20%, you gave 100%. And so it's like, you don't have to be operating at 100% all the time because your partner can balance you out. Do you know what I mean? So, and also I just think my expectations around a relationship, even from dating, have always been, I want to be with somebody who is like an equal partner. I don't want to be like somebody's mother. I don't want to be like cleaning up after them and like having to like, ask them to do things or whatever. It's just, that's how it's always been. So again, it's easier to like go into a lot of these conversations when you had the setup pre-kids, but it's never too late to have any of these conversations and to say like, hey, I want to be a team. I want to be on the same page. I want to work towards the same goals. This doesn't feel fair to me. How can we like redistribute all of these? They're like in a pot, they're like a shared pot of things that need to be done. How can we redistribute these so that you're getting some done, I'm getting some done? Like pick your favorite ones. If the laundry's your favorite, if cooking's your favorite, whatever it is, like, and just, it's never too late to kind of like change that structure, but it does help if you have it from the beginning, I think. So kind of lucky in that way.
I love that. And if I was to summarize that, get the foundations right. And even if we don't have the foundations right before we have kids, if we have kids and then it feels inequitable to you or you're having any resentment, what I say to my clients is I say, have a conversation which is, hey, how will our family work now that I'm back at work?
Yeah.
Or hey,
but do you know what? It's not even now that you're back at work. It's like before you're back at work. You're working when you're home with your kids.
Yeah, it's
so
true.
These are not things that should just be set up for you returning to work. They should just be set up like the moment you have kids, And that's what I think is so, is so important, because then when you return to work, it's not suddenly like, oh, now your partner's expected to do all this new stuff. They should have been doing that when you were on maternity leave, because looking after kids is a full-time job. And so I think that's also like a really important part of the conversation around so many people think, oh, you're at home with the kids, so you can do the cooking, you can do the washing. No, I'm at home looking after my kids. If I manage to get some stuff done in my day, that's the same as, my partner working from home and being able to put on the washing on his lunch break. That's what the expectation should be. Like, your focus is you're at home with your kids, you're looking after your kids. You're not at home to like be cleaning, to be cooking. I know that's a controversial thing to say and not everybody will agree with that. But if you have that structure in place while you're on maternity leave, returning to work will feel so much easier because you're not having to like implement all this new stuff.
Love that. Love that. And it's a really good pickup. It's a really good pickup because it really brings up this whole thing of the work of care, the work of caregiving, right?
Yeah.
And that it's a job. And I think for a lot of partners that might be dads, really struggle with that idea because they're like, I've worked a whole day at work. I need to rest.
And you're like, mate, me too. And I tell you what, this is way harder than what you've done, I often say to Josh, if he finishes work, I just need 10 minutes of nobody talking to me, nobody touching me. Like, the type of exhaustion that you have from being home with your kids all day, it's so different to the type of exhaustion you have from a different job. And, a lot of these are generalizations, but I think another really important way you can phrase it is like, would you be happy for your kids to have this relationship? Would you be happy if you have a daughter, would you be happy that she was carrying all of this on her own? Would you want her to have a partner that didn't do these things? And if the answer is no, then what are you role modeling to them? Like, you are the example that they're looking to and that they're going to copy. If you grow up watching your mum just does everything and your dad just goes to work and then comes home and clocks out, that is the relationship that your children are going to have because that's what they're going to think is normal and they're going to like continue that cycle. And so for us, it's like we really want to break those gender stereotypes with our kids. We want our son to grow up knowing that like he makes the weekend plans with, he's the one who's like keeping in touch with the grandparents, whatever. And we want him to be cooking and cleaning and doing all of these things. And we want our daughter to know that she is never going to be expected to carry that whole weight on her own. Her partner is meant to be a partner. They're meant to enhance her life, make it easier, make it more enjoyable, raise them together, rather than having a partner who's making your life harder. That is not a partnership that, I want my kids to be in. So framing it like that, would you want this for your kids? That's another way that you can start this conversation. And like, what do you want their lives to look like?
Can I add anything to that? No, I can't, because it is gold advice. I love it.
I think we're kind of in a unique situation, but yeah.
Well, and it shouldn't be unique, right? And I think what I hear from you is something that I believe, which is want more for yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Like, want more for yourself. Like, when did we get the memo that what we want is not important?
Yeah, totally. Totally. And
so I love
your career is just as important, and you're, even like if you're not looking at work, you catching up with your friends, that's also important. It doesn't just have to be work. It could be like you going and exercising. That's also important. You doing anything that fills your cup. Those things are also important. It's not just, I feel like for so many mums, it's like, okay, I'm like a mum and I do all of these things associated with being a mum, and then I have to go and work. And then that's the only two things that I'm going to prioritize. And actually it's like, your partner should be enabling you to like go for brunch with your friends or go to a Pilates class or whatever it is that you want to do. And so many of us, and like myself included, sometimes think, oh, I have to be with my kids all the time. Every moment that I'm not working, I need to be with my kids. And it's like your partner is, again, choose an equal partner. They can be equal in parenting as well. They can look after the kids on their own. All of these things. Like, I just hope that, I hope that there are people listening who are like, yeah, my partner's that too. And this isn't the exception, because like this should be the norm, it should be the norm that like dads are involved and they're hands-on. You never hear people say, oh, she's such a hands-on mum. It's just like,
look at that mum. She's taking her kids to the playground.
I know. Gosh, that mum brought her kids to the supermarket with her. Gosh, she's good, isn't she? Yeah.
Agree. Question for you.
Yeah.
I read sometimes in Facebook groups, mum groups, working mum groups, that sometimes mums are like, I'm going to quit my job and start my own business because I'm going to get way more flexibility and I'm going to see my kids more. Yeah. And I can't do this like 9 to 5 corporate thing anymore. I'm going to get more flexibility and more time with my kids, both my own business. Yeah. What would you say to that?
Starting your own business is really hard. There are days where I think, wow, it would be so nice just to have a stable income and to, work normal hours and not be up until like 1 o'clock in the morning stressed about something. But I think that like overall, being your own boss does give you more flexibility, but you still need to treat it like a job. Like our daughter goes to kindy 3 days a week. We have a nanny who comes around 10 hours a week, and then I work during nap times. I think it's still a job. It's like, yes, it's your own thing, but do you want to give up every single evening of your life? You kind of still need to be able to work during work hours, depending on how serious, you want your business to be. But if you're talking about quitting your job and replacing that salary, you do need to take it seriously. But there are obviously so many benefits to being, self-employed. If my kids are sick, I'm not having to ring up anybody to ask for annual leave or to say, I can't come in today. It's just like, I have some meetings and I can just cancel those or reschedule them. And I'm kind of more in control of my own time. If I want to go and meet a friend for coffee in the middle of the day, I can, because I dictate my own hours. There's kind of two parts to that. And it's like, yes, having your own business is amazing. And I would encourage anybody who wants to do it, because like, otherwise you might just end your life being like, what if? But also, we should hold businesses who employ people to a way higher standard. It should just be the norm that people should not get this X amount of sick days. And then once you've used that and your kids are sick and you can't go into work, it's like parents are having to juggle everything. There's just so many things around businesses employing people. And I employed one person. She went to have a second baby. She's gone on maternity leave, and I've hired somebody new to replace her. And so now I'm like thinking from a business owner perspective of what is the company culture that we want to create for mums? Like the mum that I hired before was a mum, and now I've hired somebody else, and she's also a mum. She's got 2 little kids, and she does 10 hours a week. And you can do those 10 hours whenever you want to. She'll probably increase her hours in time. We can increase within reason when you want to. And if you want to work during nap times, if you want to work in the evenings, like even if you were working 30 hours a week, you work those hours that you want to. Like you work them around your life and what works. And more businesses and more companies should have these like really flexible policies. And even things like working from home, there was this big move around COVID to everyone working from home. And now there's this kind of like switch, I feel, to going back into the office. And who is disadvantaged by that? Working mums. Because like when you're working from home, as I said before, like on your lunch break, you can put the washing on, you can empty the dishwasher, you can like run the vacuum cleaner around, you can do things on your work break when you're working from home that you can't do when you're in the office. And the other thing is like you have this commute time, right? And so I used to work in the city, and in the traffic, my commute was an hour both ways. And so that's 2 hours of my day that I'm paying for childcare that I'm not actually working. If I was working from home, daycare's a 5-minute walk from our house. Like I would finish and I would get 55 minutes each, side of the day more with my kids, 2 hours a day more with my kids. And so, yes, I think people should start a business if you want to, but don't start a business because I don't want to say the wrong reasons, but because you think it will be easier, because it's not. It's way harder. You do have more flexibility, but it's way harder. And I think that is like really, the conversation could be, what can employers do to actually make working easier for parents, and not just for mums, like for both parents.
Yeah.
And I know there's like a company, it's like another startup, way more successful than my startup, but they've got a policy when somebody goes on maternity leave or parental leave, the secondary parent also gets 4 weeks off. And for those 4 weeks, they get ready meals delivered every week. So they do 4 weeks worth of ready meals. And it's like things like that where companies now are starting to put into place like better policies for parents, better things like that, working from home, all of this stuff. Like if we collectively all have those conversations and all push for that, companies will have to kind of raise the bar, or else people won't want to work for them, like within reason. But yeah, I just think some companies are starting to offer really, really good benefits for parents. And so that's going to put the pressure on other companies also having to step up. But starting business is hard. It's really hard. And you have to have a lot of drive, and you have to really want to do it. And it's not, you can't work with kids around, that's the hardest thing. Like, it's just, you just can't. Like, if you're going to take your job seriously, and if you're going to be like having worked hours, you still need to have childcare. And some people are lucky enough to have a village that, is free, like grandparents or aunties, uncles, whatever. And probably most of us, we have to pay for our village, it doesn't just show up. And so for us, that looks like kindy, and we have a nanny now who's kind of like part of our family almost. And she'll increase her hours as I increase my like work hours. Ideally, I'd love to stop working until like midnight every night, but we don't know.
Yeah, baby steps.
Yeah.
No, so again, such a wise answer, right? Starting your own business is hard.
Yeah.
If you're only doing it for flexibility, think about the other options first, which is having different conversations at work, being more, asking the question, being a bit more I call it friendly annoying, right?
Yeah.
Why do we only have 5 days of sick leave? I've got 3 kids. They're constantly sick.
Yeah.
Sickness is a completely unpredictable thing that
Yeah. And
gets
it's also
thrown like a
unavoidable.
grenade, and it's unavoidable. It's unpredictable and unavoidable.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have never had those grenades in our career before
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. And I think that as more like women get into positions, like higher up positions, hopefully policies will change. Like that's why it's so important for women to have a seat at the table, and to be in like these kind of company policy decisions and be at that higher level, because then they can actually advocate for like things that will benefit, parents. And I think there's lots of guys that they think, oh yeah, we're going to create policies that benefit parents, but like if you're not the person carrying the load, you don't really get it. And I think if you're wanting to start a business for flexibility, it's like, okay, so you can get that flexibility, but your stress levels could increase like drastically because suddenly you don't have a safety net, like there's all these kind of pros and cons, and it's like weighing them up. And I think that if you're finding like, working is really hard and it's hard with the family, it's like there are other, as you said, other things you can do, like having those conversations with your work about how they can be more accommodating to like parents. Also conversations with your partner. If your partner is not like if your partner is not sharing like kindy pickup, kindy drop off, if they're not like doing the cooking, doing the cleaning, like sharing all of these things, if both parents are working full time, it is absolutely mind blowing to me that one parent carries the load at home. Like it's just nuts. Even today, for example, like I'm working from home, my partner's working from home, and we'll like share who does kindy drop off, because just because I'm like self-employed, that's still important, And so having a partner who recognizes what you do, sees what you do as important, sees parenting as valuable, like all of these things are conversations that are really worth having with your partner, with your employee, with your like village, whether that's a village that you have from grandparents or whatever, or a village that you pay for. And I think there's so much like guilt attached to paying for like a village, with your kids going to get daycare and parents are like feeling guilty that their kids are there. Having like a village that you don't pay for, it's like a form of generational wealth. It's just like such a privileged thing. And I think that if your kids go to daycare, the daycare teachers are amazing. Find a daycare that your kids, that you love the teachers. They're part of your village. Like my daughter's been at the same day as a daycare kindy. She's been there for like 2.5 years now. And like, we just know the staff so well. There's been like no staff turnover. They've known her since she was like really little. It's like, that can be part of your village. Like, yes, you have to pay for it, but it's the same as like, okay, well, we have a grandparent looking after them. I don't know. I think it's just, you can't do everything. You can't be like working full time or even working part time, doing all of the childcare, carrying the load at home. All of these things you shouldn't be, like, yeah, you shouldn't be doing them. So just delegate, like get your partner on the same page. You're a team, you're working together. Pay for your village if you don't have one. Make sure you've got that support network in place. Like, you also deserve to be able to like go and do things that fill your cup outside of just parenting and working. If that means you get a nanny or a babysitter or your kids go to daycare, like, yeah, it looks different for everyone, right? But I just think, I hope that things are changing more for parents, especially for mums. And I think that's why it's important to talk about it. Like, women traditionally don't even talk about what we earn, right? We don't talk about anything like this. Men always talk about that. That's what's kind of, I don't want to get like real, anti the patriarchy, but I am anti the patriarchy, but like, don't want to get too political, but it's like, these are the things that are holding women back. The idea that it's like, it's bad to talk about money. It's not bad to talk about money. Like, find out what your friends are earning. Find out what people doing the same job as you are doing so that you can ask for more if you're not being paid correctly. Like, all of these, talk to your friends about your KiwiSaver. Like, oh, how much do you have in your KiwiSaver? Or like, what has your partner done, around that when you've been on maternity leave? These are kind of conversations that it's not just to have with your partner, have with your friends. Find out what the norm is in your social group. And if they're not doing it, encourage them to do it as well. And then you're all going through their stages together, because yes, it's like you and your partner can decide on something. Share this idea with people, and everyone benefits. Yeah.
I love it. I really agree with that observation that women don't talk about money.
Yeah.
And in fact, we have the best infrastructure to do that because we have great relationships,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like, we do talk to other women about everything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we need to talk about money. And I
Yeah.
just think that is great advice. And it feels so freaking hard and weird.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that transparency is so important. And we need to talk about what's happening at home, because there's
Yeah.
also a lot of shame associated with if it's not equal at home, or if it's
Yeah.
actually incredibly inequitable.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if you're a real boss person at work, you feel like it's your failure that you've got a
Yeah.
partner
Yeah.
that does
Yeah.
nothing at home. Well, I don't, that does nothing in quotes, because they'll
Yeah.
think they're doing lots, but
Yeah.
you know,
Mow the lawn, like, once a month or something. Yeah,
mm,
no, I agree, and I think that it's hard to have these conversations, and it's really hard if your partner is not receptive to them. There is nothing harder than you building up the courage to say, "Hey, like, what are we gonna do about this?" And then your partner's like, "Nothing. That's my money," you know? I just can't think of anything worse
yeah,
than that situation, but I think approaching it like, you guys are a team. You and your partner, you're a team. Your family unit, you're a team. You're working towards the same goals. Your partner should want what's best for you. And what's best for you is having a pension to retire on. Like, you know, when you're talking about your KiwiSaver, they should recognize how hard you're working by raising your kids. And so having these conversations, or like send them this podcast and let them listen to me ranting about it, you know, like, or find out what your friends are doing and say, "Oh, hey, X, Y, and Z, their partners all contribute into their KiwiSaver. Like, how come we're not doing that?" You know,
yeah,
and if we have these conversations with our friends and we find out what other people are doing, you know, it helps like flow into other conversations. But it is hard. It is really hard. And I'd say like, you know, baby steps. I
mm,
think there's a card game that you can get and it's got like all the different tasks around the house and you
fair
like maybe,
play.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe start with something like that, you know, that's like a
yeah,
playful way of addressing it. Or even just like saying like, you know, this is all of the tasks that I do in a week. How could what one of the which of these jobs do you want to take on? You know, what do you want to be your thing? Like maybe, you know,
mm,
you say to your partner, you're going to be in charge of washing from now on. I'm not going to do any more washing. You're going to do all the laundry. I'm going to do all the cooking. I'm going to do, you know, this. You're going to do the laundry. And then like, you know, when it gets to the point that nobody has any clean clothes, it's like, okay, so you need to go and do the laundry now. There's no clean clothes. I don't know what it is, how you're going to get to that,
yeah,
those conversations, but trying to illustrate the amount that you do.
yeah,
And, you know, I recognize that, like, I don't want to say lucky because it's like, I hate when people say that, but like, I do have a partner who is like so supportive and so on the same page. But there are so many guys that are like that and so many partners that are like that. It's not unheard of. It's just that
mm,
from my perspective, like, it sounds really harsh, but, like, I wouldn't tolerate doing everything. I just would be like, "There's
yeah,
absolutely no way. Like, are you joking that you want me to do all of these things while working, while parenting? Like,
mm,
that's just not happening," you know?
mm,
And so but that's because it's always been like that. I've always been like this, you know?
mm,
Like, I don't know, even, like, before meeting Josh, I hated cleaning and cooking and doing all these things, and I would just often joke, "Oh, one day I'll just have a cleaner," or, like, "When I'm really rich, I'll have a personal chef," or, like, you know, I was just in my mind, there was never a world where I did all of these things,
yeah,
and so, yeah, like, just channel that energy and be like, "I am not gonna do all these things anymore," like, and even, like, you know, we have a shared calendar, and I'll book in, like, brunch with my friends, like, this Sunday, it's my friend's birthday, we're going out for brunch, and I just send it to him in his calendar, and then he just knows, like, okay, he's on parenting that morning because 'cause I've made plans to go out with my friend, like, if it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. Yeah, I
mm,
think you find what works for you, and you find, like, little systems, but even if you just start with one thing that you can take off your plate, and you can be like,
yeah,
this is one thing that I
yeah,
do that you're gonna do now, you know? Or have those conversations about, like, what are we gonna do about my KiwiSaver? I've been a stay-at-home parent for 5 years, like, you know, how much money have I missed out on by being a stay-at-home parent? Like, your partner might not have even thought of these things, and so it could be that you bring it up and they're like, "Oh, shit, that's terrible." Like, yeah, what are we gonna do about that? Because for so many people, it's just not even, like, a thought that
mm.
they've had.
Listeners, channel your inner Renata. That's what we're saying here. And I know that many of them are right now scheduling a weekly check-in for Sunday where they're
Yeah,
going to talk through all of this and
yeah,
more. Thank you so much, Renata. This has been a powerful conversation. I love the detail we've talked about in terms of money, in terms of KiwiSaver, in terms of having those conversations. It's a massive part of the motherhood penalty.
yeah,
Because you have a retirement penalty.
yeah,
And it's all good if you're still together, but for whatever reason, if you're
yeah.
not, it's financially devastating. So I love
It
that.
it is, yeah, and I think it's just, like, for so many people, it's just not something they even thought about before. Might not have even
Yeah.
crossed their mind, you know, and I know for a
Yeah.
lot of my friends, it didn't even cross their mind until 5 years down the track, they find out that they've not been paying anything and their partner suddenly has, like, you know, however many thousand more than them in that time, like, yeah, I hope at least if you take away anything, it's like, what are you gonna do about your KiwiSaver?
I love it. That's a great outcome. And I've loved the conversation around how your family works, your expectations. I love the story about the high chair spillage and getting the mat, and because for me, that story is around the mental load and the thinking and the remembering. And I think that's really important. And
Seeing the
I
growth that
believe
needs to
in
be done.
dads. I
Yeah.
believe in dads. I really believe in dads. And I believe that we as a world have so much to gain
Yeah.
if we can welcome dads at home.
Totally.
And I'm just totally, and that's actually the change we need in the world.
Yeah.
Let's not even get into what's happening in the world.
I know.
But it's more of the more involved.
You can start with the change in your house. You know, you can't change the world, but you can
Yeah.
change what happens in your house, and you can change what your kids grow up wanting
Yeah.
for themselves and believing is normal. And so, yeah, you can make a change. It might be small, but you can definitely make a change.
Ngā mihi nui. Thank you so much, Renata. You
Thank
are
you
a
for having me.
legend. I will put, and on the show notes, I will put the details of Renata's app and her Instagram page. It sounds like an amazing resource for parents with young children, so get amongst it.
If you're a dad and
Thank you.
if you're a dad and you want to get out with the kids, let the mum have the day off. You've got find all the information. We've done the research for you, so it can empower more dads.
Love it. Love it. Thank you very much, Renata.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of It's Good to Talk. This podcast was brought to you by Works for Everyone. It's the business that I own, your host, Emma McLean. We are a company that partners with progressive businesses to help support their mums and dads in the workplace and at home through innovative leadership programs, executive coaching, and keynote speaking. I hope you did like this episode. If you did, please follow on your favorite podcast platforms, share with a friend, and if you want to know any more information, check out Works for Everyone on Instagram or on the interweb. Until next time, remember, it's good to talk.